Carl and Liam here from Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial.com for short. And this is the last time you will see us do something new in Getting Goosebumps episode talk throughs. It is the final episode of season 4 and the final episode to date of any Goosebumps TV show. It is Deep Trouble, a 2-part episode, the 7th and 8th episode of season 4 overall. It is the end. Written by Jessica Scott and Mike Wallinger and directed by William Fruitt. So at least we have a director we recognize.
Yeah.
Alas, we do not end at a high. The cast: Laura Vandervoort as Sheena Deep, Todd Fennell as Billy Deep, Paul Miller as Dr. Harold Deep, Mark Ellis as Jake Ritter, Jason McSkimming as Louis Ferreira, and Maria Vakratius as Janet. That is literally the cast. There are a few smaller names that kind of have minor roles in background here, but that is the cast. And that should already worry you. That is very small for a 2-parter.
Yeah. If you watch the previous episodes that we've done, we've been so complimentary of season 4 up to this point. So it is quite interesting. I think you mentioned in the Cry of the Cat episode that was the actual last episode produced. So I wonder why they went with the decision to end with this episode. Obviously, we're going to talk through it. Probably not going to be super complimentary about it, but so especially considering the way Cry of the Cat ends, I think that'd be quite a cool way to have to end the series. That
Yeah, of course. All the meta jokes and ending on that. Where's the twist? Fucking hell! I didn't even think of it. That's the ending.
Yeah, that's your curtain drop, man, right there. But no, they decided to do this one. I'm not sure why they placed it here, but here's what it is. Can't change it now. I mean, it ended how many years ago now? Can't change it.
Indeed, we can't, unfortunately. And it should be noted, probably the most factual thing about this, of course, this is called Deep Trouble. However, and it's called Deep Trouble. In fact, the DVD for this episode uses the art from Deep Trouble. However, this is not Deep Trouble. This is adapted from the plot of Deep Trouble 2.
What?
Why? Yeah, this is Deep Trouble 2. Really?
Well, yeah. That's even more strange.
At least when Night of the Living Dummy 2 did it, they called it Night of the Living Dummy 2. So you were under no illusions that it was the first one. But yeah, this is completely Deep Trouble 2. Causes a lot of confusion because, of course, it's called Deep Trouble.
Well.
Yeah, makes no sense. There's a lot of reusing. We've had a lot of reusing of characters, and there's no different here. But it should all be noted as well, a lot of elements from other Goosebumps episodes appear in here. Notable for the costume for the Green Fish Mutant is, of course, clearly recycled from the piranha person from season 3's Shocker on Shock Street.
That's right. Yeah, I knew I recognized that from somewhere.
Did you also recognize the giant ant?
Yes,
awesome, I did. Ants. Awesome ants. Yeah. Characters. Laura Vandervoort played Nadine in season 3's The Haunted House game. No, I remember Haunted House game vaguely, but did not place her.
Yeah, that was just the episode where it was basically one big advertisement for board game. They were making. I think it was pretty decent, but still.
I think we thought it was imaginative.
Yes.
Paul Miller played Mr. Holmes in season 3's The Barking Ghost. No, The Barking Ghost, I don't remember us enjoying at all.
No, me neither.
And an odd one, and weirdly I did remember her, because even though she was only briefly in it, Mario Vacatrice played the bus driver in season 3's World with Skin. And that's the one that mocks the kid when he gets off the bus and tries to scare him and then laughs at the start. And I was like, oh yeah, that's who she is.
Yeah, I recognized her face, and now you say that, I do remember that scene pretty well. So she clearly must have delivered her lines quite well in that moment, because I remember it being quite amusing the way she tries to scare the kid.
Agreed. And World of Skin is obviously quite memorable for a number of reasons.
Good episode.
All right, let's do this. We begin focusing on a girl fishing in a raft at the edge of the sea as we see a shark fin approaching. She appears to have struggled to catch anything, but gets a line as the shark, and they clearly rip off Jaws music where they're like, let's rip it off, but let's not do it obviously. She loses it, and it's here we learn her name is Sheena, and she sees the fins and starts to panically row back to shore as it approaches. We then get a shot of a fin POV that makes it look extremely fake. And then we see a boy with a remote control laughing behind a tree. And you're like, okay, right. Pranks. That's Goosebump trope. Pranks. Sheena gets to shore, and the boy, Billy, comes out and mocks her. We then get exposition as it revealed that they were dumped on Uncle Harold by their parents for the summer. There it is. There we are. Parents, fuck off, kids. Go hang out with your uncle. And it is generally, although we're going to talk about this more, we'll say it now. It's one of those where these kids should not be left with someone like this. Why did he agree to take them? Why did the parents dump him here?
So many damn questions.
Sheena complains about how little there is to do there, but Billy discovers some sort of weird bone that he thinks is a shark's tooth. It looks like a fucking tooth. That annoyed me. I wrote bone all the way from my notes. I had to go back and change it to shark's tooth.
I mean, it might just be my mind, and it's probably inappropriate, but I thought it looked like something else. There was a
sort of phallicness to it.
Phallicness. You said it.
It's, oh God, it means my next line kind of works. It's so big that Sheena dismisses it.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, there it is. However, they freak each other out and run back to the house. They arrive back at Uncle Howard's place, but he's nowhere to be found. But they do discover a strange spillage that smells of seawater that leads off to the door. And we see there being watched from outside through the windows. Billy follows the trail and heads outside, much to Sheena's chagrin. She refuses to follow. And he looks around outside with a broom as a weapon, but finds nothing. Coming back in, he mocks Sheena's fear, but a noise startles him and he knocks off an ornament, smashing it. They continue to look for Harold in the house because it's so big that if he was in the house, he would not have heard them apparently calling and smashing things. Eventually, they find a door to the basement that is supposedly his lab. They're not supposed to go in, but Billy thinks the tooth he found qualifies as an emergency. They go in and find an aquatic lab and admire some of his work, although they don't actually seem to know what he's actually doing. And listen, people, not only is this incredibly boring, but it feels so repetitive. So repetitive. This is just stay out of the basement, but done with fish stuff instead of plant life.
Yeah, I think this is why it really hurt this episode, knowing it's the final one. You know, you have expectations that because this is the last hurrah, man, they're going to go big and, you know, do something a bit different. And then when you get such a mundane, cliches that we've seen so much throughout the series that we have highlighted and criticized and talked about how it's so repetitive throughout the episodes, and then when you see that's what you're being delivered at this point, knowing it's the last one, it hurts even more, I think.
And it hurts with what we've just done. We've done How I Got My Shrunken Head. We have done The Ghost Next Door, and we have done Cry of the Cat. 3 varied, unique, different takes. So they come to something that's so traditional. I know that sounds silly to criticize that, but we are in the fucking 70s here, people. And it's not they're just traditional. It's just like, we've done this. We have done this. Now, what I did at this point watching, because I didn't remember anything about this, I had never seen it before, expect some unusual twists and turns. I'm going to go out on a limb now to say nothing in this episode, nothing lands, nothing hits without, oh, that was good.
Yep, I agree.
In the lab, Billy messes with a vial and remarks that it smells like the slime. He wants to look at it under a microscope, but Sheena wants him to put it back. They end up struggling with it, resulting in it going flying and landing in a tank with some sort of pufferfish piranha-looking thing. Now, I do appreciate, again, it's a little bit of a practical effect, so there is that.
Yeah, I thought the effect of the giant fish and its huge spines looked really, really good, actually.
Smooth move there, Sheena.
Me? You're the one who let go.
Yep, indeed. Before the kids can do anything else, Harold arrives home. They hide as he comes downstairs with his assistant Jake as they discuss a missing person called Lewis. Lewis. Jake is trying to dissuade Harold's fears as he wants to go to the police. Jake points out to Harold that if he goes to the police, they will shut down their project. And Harold remarks that it might deserve to be shut down and references some sort of project called D13. Ooh.
Getting Resident Evil vibes, man.
Yeah! Oh, good, yeah. They leave, allowing Billy and Sheena to come out of hiding. Billy notices a picture of Harold, Jake, and another person, which he summarizes must be the missing Lewis. They then hear a crash and find the tank that held the sort of blowfish smashed, and the fish has grown to a massive size. And one of the better scenes is here, as it starts to shoot spikes from its body at them, and they are forced to duck for cover. They even manage to go into a closet as spikes come boom, boom, into the door, and they are quite big, and I like it. The look, the threat, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I liked it.
Stuck, Sheena calls for help, but Billy thinks they can pretend it got them and escape. I thought, what? What do you mean? How's that going to work? But they don't hear anything, but the doorknob starts to turn. The door opens, and it's Harold who's angry to find him there, and they pass Jake as he's covering up the mutant fish. So I guess the spikes just don't exist anymore. It shot them all out. It doesn't have any more for Jake to be able to do that.
Convenient.
Upstairs, Harold tells them off as Sheena turns heel and grasses Billy up. This is my moment of heel turn. Proper like, by God, she hits Billy in the head with a chair.
Didn't see that coming.
Didn't. Jake claims the slave trial was left by him, trying out his new flippers. And I was like, that is the most bullshit. Nobody tries flippers on in the house and tries to walk in them.
Try harder, kid.
We focus on the maid, Janet's face, which suggests otherwise. Harold tells Janet to clean up the lab, something she would clearly rather not do. And Sheena apologizes to Harold, but Billy shows him the tooth he found. Now, we will get on to Janet in a bit, but what a dumb character, and what an attempt to try and subvert expectations, which goes absolutely nowhere. Hated it.
Yeah.
Harold insists that they stay away from the beach, and Billy rightfully points out there is nothing else to do. Jake defends Harold's behavior as being under pressure, and I'll give that credit. Both Jake and Harold, they're pretty good actors in this, and I do get the impression that Harold is dealing with a lot, and that Jake, as his assistant, does care for Harold, but also sees the opportunities. I called it quite quickly that Jake was going to be a villain, but I didn't quite connect the dots.
Yeah, I mean, even if we're a bit down on the episode, I don't think it's a criticism on the performances of the actors. I thought they did a good job, the actors, and I don't think that any of the characters are particularly unlikable or anything, which is nice.
Agreed. Later at the back, the kids are playing cards as we see Janet preparing food. An out-of-place dish seems to anger her, and she confronts the kids, accusing them of eating a cake that was on it. She informs them that she will tell her uncle that she's not their maid. She's not there to clean up after them, fair enough. I didn't mind that, because I do get the impression, man, if you're a housekeeper, right, that's used to just kind of cleaning up after Harold and all that, and then you got two fucking kids there, you'd be like, are you kidding me? Because that's a lot more work.
Yeah, I get that.
Billy, though's had enough, and he's going swimming. And en route to the beach, he comes across a slice of the cake on the ground. We see he's being watched through the trees as he calls for Sheena, thinking it might have been her, especially as he hears snapping twigs.
Stranger danger.
Yeah. Eventually, he begins to get a bit scared as he tries to uncover Sheena's hiding spot. It's one of those annoying things, when you just keep going looking. Oh, Sheena, where are you hiding? I know you're here. All of that nonsense. When he can't find her and feels like he's being pursued, he runs off and ends up at the beach. He's then grabbed from behind by an exhausted, soaked man who collapses and calls out for Lady Milton and claims there's something in the water before he collapses, with Billy running off to get Harold now.
Stranger danger.
There it is, and it was a stranger, and he is dangerous.
Exactly.
Kind of. Maybe not. No, he's not really.
Not really.
She's an animal or something.
Lady Milton. The water. In the water.
Uncle Harold.
Later, the man is brought back to Harold's place, and Jake checks him over. Jake claims that he is in shock, and Billy repeats what the man said to him. He briefly comes around and calls for Lady Milton again, but this time adds an island to the mix. So he's kind of given him exposition in his moments of clarity. So this is something where I think Goosebumps writing fails. I had to go back and rewrite my notes later on because I thought this guy was Lewis, because it did not make it clear that this wasn't Lewis. The way they act towards him suggests that they are aware or know who he is, but this will turn out to literally be nobody. Nobody important to the plot, except to move them onto the next stage of the plot. It's just a convenient character thrown in. I thought it was Lewis. So when I find out later that it's not Lewis, because when Lewis is introduced, I was like, what the fuck, man? I had to go back and change it all so I didn't screw up my notes. Annoying.
Yeah, that is annoying.
Harold and Jake agreed to take Billy and Sheena and head off to look for the island, with a former telling Janet to look after the man. And here she starts to act really sinister. And he just, right, first off, why would they agree to take Billy and Sheena? Like, they're aware of the dangers, they're aware of the trouble. They don't even really want him there, and have told him to stay away from the fucking beach. Don't go swimming because it might be dangerous. No, they're like, hey, well, it's all right. We'll go to this weird island where we have no idea what threats exist.
Fools.
Yep. And then we've got Janet as well, looking super sinister, especially when he picks up the phone to make a call, but only gets Stag declaring that she'll have to take the truck to get help. And it's so forced. It's just, oh, what are you doing? Stupid. And it's also we can get the trope twist ending. This is all why this exists.
Gotta have it.
They then arrive at the last smaller island, having to search for Lady Milton. Sheena and Billy are excited, but before anything can happen, Jake betrays Harold and takes the boat, abandoning them on the island. He wants the experiment for himself. And as they watch them ride off, somebody watches the trio from the trees. And that's the end of part 1. And it comes out of nowhere. And what I did previously praise the Ghost Next Door for doing, like, showcasing its, I don't know, its reveal at the end of the first part. Here, I just was like, wait, what? That was quick. Oh, all right, then he's just a bad guy now. Okay.
Yeah, no, there's not too much to say on the first part. I don't really feel. I think it's quite slow, quite mundane, but it's okay. It's not like it's particularly terrible or anything, but it's just not too exciting, is it?
Protecting our experiment, Harry.
What do you mean?
I'm not gonna let you throw away all our hard work just because you don't have the guts to see it through.
You can't just leave us on this island, Ritter. This is insane.
Have a nice life. What's left of it.
Some kind of joke?
I wish it was.
Agreed. And while this second part will have more excitement, in inverted commas, what we experience isn't what I would call good.
Yeah, I mean, I've got much more notes for the second part, but I wouldn't say they're particularly positive notes.
So after the recap, the trio are planning to make a fire to signal any particular ship that comes by. Harold then tells them about D13, telling him about plankton and their experiments with it. D13 is a new strain of plankton that would turn carbon dioxide into oxygen at 4 times the normal rate. However, it has a side effect, turning anything that eats it much larger. And he is concerned that D13 got into the water and that the marine life around the cove have been eating it. And he wanted to stop the experiment, but Jake had other plans. Harold suspects that Jake wants to sell D13 and seems unconcerned really about it. And that's all said super fast by me because that just comes at you in a fucking wave. And your eyes will gloss over because it's too much nonsense. It doesn't make sense. If it already turned things big, why are we only seeing it now? Why are they only experiencing it now? Why is it isolated to one fucking location? Once it's in the water, you're fucked. You're not cleaning that shit up. It's gone. It makes no... It's nonsensical. And the problem is, as Harold says all of this in such a deadpan way that, like I said, he seems unconcerned. This is end of the world stuff, if it's true.
Definitely, especially as we later see some of the creatures are, seaborn and things like that. Like, they ain't staying on an island, bro. Like, what are you talking about?
It's not good. And so my eyes were glossing over. And it's like, okay. I did think, well, at least we might get to see some big, like, creatures.
Yeah,
we will.
Look forward to the practical effects work. Goosebumps is good for that. The couple episodes we had before this, some great stuff, right? So it's got to be good.
Even when he talks about the side effects on humans, because, humans, side effects on humans who eat the big fish. So basically, your experiment is useless because we can't even use it to cure hunger.
What a fool.
He's so blasé about it. So Billy ends up finding a crash boat and discovers that the boat is Lady Milton. Obviously. An island is unlikely to be called Lady Milton, but Lady Milton sounds like a fucking boat's name.
It does.
Harold suspects that one of the transformed creatures caused the crash, and Cena suggests they look for an inflatable life raft amongst the wreckage. But Billy sees something unusual in his peripheral vision. Now, I will praise here, they actually use peripheral vision. Most horror, if not all horror, relies on a massive thing, which is nobody has peripheral vision. Shit, yeah. Alien wouldn't exist as a movie if people could see out of the corner of their fucking eyes.
That's true. Good point.
He tries to tell the others who ignore him, so he goes to look for himself. In the woods, he follows a moving shape, but we see he's being watched by another. Sheena follows the trail of wreckage, passing in the woods, and finds some sort of small and old canoe. She goes back to get Harold as Billy realizes he made a mistake, so starts to head back. Are you bored? Because all of this is exactly how it's described. Just looking at stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I had to sit through watching it, but I'm reliving it for a second time with you describing it, and yeah, it's not too exciting.
So
Which might be an understatement.
Sheena and Harold uncovered a canoe and figure they could use it to escape the island, but wonder about its appearance on the island. Billy then finds Slime and a leaf and calls to the others, claiming that he doesn't think they're alone. He begins to panic, finding himself lost, and Sheena and Harold now knows that Billy is missing. Okay. He's running through tall grass and is grabbed from behind by something with a claw. It throws him down, and Harold and Sheena hear him screaming. Interesting that they couldn't hear him calling beforehand, though.
Yeah, so close by.
Billy!
Billy? Billy! Billy!
They track him down, but only find where he was, confirmed by his watch and more slime. Sheena now has his growls and calls for Harold, who seems to have disappeared. As she panics, she's grabbed from behind, but it's Harold who drags her to the beach. Yeah, why did you do that, Harold? He claims that D13 must have reached the island, confirmed by them being watched by a giant lizard. And it is the first of many horrendous effects that there must have been better ways to do this, because what they've done is they've superimposed a lizard on, they basically fucking clip arted it around, cut around it, and made it look big, and it looks so stupid. It looks cut out. It looks so bad.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know how this, you know, you just said it, you've hit on the nail on the head. It looks terrible. It just looks terrible.
Now.
And it's what they will utilize for almost every other effect, because they run from it as it slowly gives chase, because of course it's not actually there, so it's not really chasing them. They've just filmed a lizard probably in its tank separately, and then, like I said, cut it out. But they then come across a giant crab, which looks exactly the fucking same. It's like, oh my god, what's going on? You know what it reminds? You know what? It would be fine if this was a homage to like a 50s, 60s monster movie, and then I might forgive it. But it's not done that up to this point.
Maybe if they'd use like stop motion or something like that, that'd be cool. Because I was getting sort of like King Kong vibes, like when they see the giant creatures, like they go to Skull Island or some shit. And you're gonna, maybe they're gonna come across like a giant ape, like, or something like that, you know. Which is, I feel like maybe that's what they were going for with this whole concept somewhere along the lines. But that's what, you know. Yeah, I also wonder if like when they shot the episode, obviously they didn't have the effects done beforehand. So maybe like they didn't even know that's what it was going to be. Maybe like in the description for the effects team, it was like they see a giant lizard, and then they were like, maybe they intended it to be a practical effect or something like that, but the effects team didn't have the budget, or whatever, so they just had to quickly throw this thing together. You can only imagine the face of the people that probably were behind making it when they finally saw the episode and they saw that. I'm sure they were probably as disappointed as we are.
No, well said. You well said. Of course, there would have been a tennis ball and a stick. This is where its head is. Look in this direction. You're absolutely right. They run into the woods again, pursued by the giant lizard, eventually finding an old metal heart and head inside. Sheena wonders if it got Billy as Harold tries to quiet her so they can avoid detection. And you kind of get like vibes of Jurassic Park here as they try to stay hidden from this thing looking for them inside the building. But it does eventually wander off. Sheena wants to look for Billy, but Harold suggests in one moment that I laughed at, oh, he's probably already dead. And I was like, that's not Harold, just abandon him and get out. But before the conversation go any further, his leg is grabbed by a green and clawed hand that drags him into a pit. Sheena tries to help, but he's taken away and she's alone now. She tries to talk herself up, grabs a stick and jumps into the pit, finding herself in some sort of underground tunnel system. So we're now going underground.
Well, brother.
big snake scares her and she's forced to run and hide. And I don't know if I think the snake effect might be worse than the lizard. It looks even worse.
It reminded me of the previous episode. I can't remember what it's bloody called, but it's one where they're in the summer camp thing, and there's the guy who's doing experiments on snakes, and he turns into a snake at the end of it. It's got the guy that played Spidey from Sage and Die, and I can't remember what the bloody episode's called because it was again it was another really bad one. But yeah, the effect was basically identical to that. So
Teacher's pet.
Teacher's pet, exactly. And yeah, I think they use the same effect, basically.
But eventually she comes across some humanoid cloaked beings, but is grabbed by Billy, who is apparently okay. And he says they have to get out and he'll tell her what happened later. And I was like, what the fuck episode? Wait a minute. So I presume when he was grabbed, he was going to reveal, look, no, they're okay. They just, they grabbed me and I've been talking to whatever. But no, he seems to still think they're monsters.
Yeah.
So what, he got away?
Confusion.
Indeed. But they do come across the one practical effect of a creature in this as they then come across the giant ant, which is the repeat one from Awesome Ants.
Yeah.
One of the cloaked beings arrives with a flaming torch and scares it off. He then introduces himself as Lewis and reveals that he's some sort of human-fish hybrid who agreed to take D13 for money after Jake promised him it would only make him stronger. He also tells him that he's not alone, but the others are a bit meaner. The makeup effects on him are pretty good, I think. The kind of suction and stuff like that. It's a little bit gross.
Yeah, I thought considering we're crapping so hard on the bad effects, you got to compliment some of the good effects. And I think actually the costumes and stuff like that, even though, like you said, some of them are reused previous episodes and stuff, they do actually look really good. So at least there's that. And the whole cave system set and whatnot, and it's not bad.
Yeah. We'll say some positive things, right?
What are you doing down here?
Because I don't belong anyplace else. I worked with Dr. Deep and Dr. Ritter as a laboratory assistant. They were doing experiments with D13, and Dr. Ritter said he'd pay me an extra $100 a week if I would take it myself. He said the only thing it would do would just make me stronger.
Gotta try.
Sheena refuses to go without Harold, but Lewis tells him that others want revenge on Harold. And Sheena claims that she can change their mind as Harold technically isn't to blame. And I use the term there, technically. Okay, he didn't outright experiment on them, but as the creator of D13 and the one that exposed all the creatures to it by the creation of plankton, I kind of say you're kind of hard to blame. It's like going, well, all those people that worked behind the creation of the atomic bomb aren't to blame for it. And it's like, well, technically they're not responsible for the atomic bomb, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough one, I suppose. But if you had any involvement in it whatsoever, I think you got to take some of the blame there, at least. Yeah.
Lewis leads them deeper, and they find Harold tied to a stake and surrounded by variations on hybrids who declare they want justice. A giant tarantula then approaches. And I was like, well, it looks like shit. I'd rather not look at it because it's a giant tarantula.
Yeah.
Harold tries to explain himself and get himself out of the situation, but they refuse to believe him as he blames it all on Jake. Which, you know what? That's still a really dick move to be like, yeah, go kill him.
You deserve what's coming to you, don't you?
Yeah, I'm not convinced by Harold. He was quick. Like I said, he wanted to abandon Billy quite quickly. Saying, oh, he's already dead. And now he's like, go kill Jake. I'm surprised he didn't offer up the kids instead. They did it.
It's true.
Nice to see you again, Dr. Deep.
You have to believe me. I created D13 to help mankind, not to destroy it.
Sheena now arrives and backs up Harold's story and offers proof. The argument is that they would never have come here if they knew the truth and explained Jake's plans, which is enough to convince the hybrids who declared that they will now go and get Jake. I was like, well, that's fucking easy. Hey, that was it. We wouldn't have come here if we were responsible for it. But you didn't know what you had created. So you're still to blame. Just because you did it by accident doesn't mean you fucking didn't do it.
Nope. I don't think that would hold up in court.
Harold is free as we cut to Jake packing up his car with a D13. As he heads inside, he notices slime and realizes what it means. He attempts to make an escape via the bolt, but is grabbed before he can. And yeah, we'll come back to that in a bit. Sometime later, Lewis is back to normal, as it seems as though Harold has come up with an antidote that will get rid of all traces of D13 in the water and revert the larger fish back to normal. I just wrote sure, whatever. Yeah, like you're going to do that lazily.
So it was all a waste of time, basically.
If you can come up with an antidote that quickly, why didn't you already have one?
Yeah, I mean, if it was that easy, yeah.
Yeah. Harold then promises Sheena and Billy a quiet rest of summer. And they wonder what happened to Jake as Harold reckons he'll show up sooner or later. Okay, so it's Goosebump twist time. As we get the most ham-fisted, not necessary, pointless end here. As we cut to a different island where Janet, remember the housekeeper, apparently runs a carnival of sorts and has a real fish man she is sending in tourists to see. Inside, we see it's Jake in a tank, more human than actual fish, which is really dumb as well. But why not cover him with effects? And a kid claims it looks totally fake. And I was just like, that is so stupid. It doesn't even make any sense. And that's it. That's the end.
That's it. That's the final shot we get of Goosebumps ever.
What a lackluster way to go.
And what a ripoff. That looks totally fake.
I did think it was like quite horrific though in nature to have. I mean, I know he deserved it, all things considered, but like again, kind of just the idea of that, as like a twist, just quite poor taste, I suppose, in a way. But yeah, like I said, he deserved it.
It's a Goosebumps twist. It's a dark Goosebumps twist. I don't think there's anything particularly hard. I wouldn't maybe be so critical of it if the journey there had been worth it and Jake had been a really good villain and we had really got a proper villain and got a good story that was engaging. But this is 2 episodes that, again, could be one, should have been one, that I don't really think has any impact. And you know what? It really lacks, weirdly, that I'm going to mention. Scares. It's not scary in the slightest.
That is definitely a huge criticism, and I think on the whole, it's competently made. The acting is decent, characters are fine, and it's not all around terrible, like we've said. But I just found myself really bored throughout this episode. I was losing interest on a few occasions, which I think is one of the biggest criticisms you're going to have, because Goosebumps episodes, there's always something wacky happening, always something entertaining. Always keeps you hooked. But to have an episode, especially, I think we're allowed to be a bit harsher on it, being the final episode of Goosebumps, to have you feeling so bored and almost, for me, I was almost waiting for this to end. And when it did end and those credits rolled, I was relieved, and that's a real huge downer to end the entire series in that fashion and leave you with that feeling of like, oh, glad that's over.
I 100% agree, but I would also throw in this, ignoring the downer fact that that's just kind of how we end. This is the last episode of a 4-season run of what has been quality stuff overall, whether it always be as spectacular as The Ghost Next Door or just the fun of Cry of the Cat and How I Got My Shrunken Head. This is just dull, and it's just it's flat. It's flat. It's a flat closer to the season and the show overall.
Yeah, I think whoever was in charge of the run of these episodes and the way they were going to be put out, to have this one come after episodes that were filled with such creativity, so many strong aspects, and to end it all on such a bland and generic note after that, I think hurts even more.
Well, you nailed it at the start. It was something I did not realize, and I love it because now in my head, it's all I can picture. We had an ending, a really meta, clever ending with Cry of the Cat. And the fact it was the last episode produced meant it really should have been the last episode aired as well. And I do wonder if it kind of maybe might have regrets on that, but I guess we'll never know.
Indeed.
That's it, folks. That is the last time you're going to hear us talk about the Goosebumps TV series, unless it ever comes back. It was rumored a few years ago, but that has not come to fruition. I suspect that the less than stellar response to the second Goosebumps movie, even though it made money, it did not make as much or as big a splash as the first movie did. However, do look out for in the future a list of things I'm going to quickly tell you right now. Of course, tier lists that will sum up season 3 and 4. That is being combined because season 4 only has 4 episodes. The final tier list that will take the top episodes of the entire Goosebumps series run from our previous tier list and put them all into one to try and hopefully get to what is the best episode in our agreed opinion. That will be fucking fascinating, what we end up with there. And of course, we will do it because it's sticking with a theme and it works with getting Goosebumps. We will be reviewing, talking through the 2 Goosebumps movies at some point later in the future. And, well, I'm not going to reveal what will replace getting Goosebumps. All I will say to you is this. It's something to do with the dark. Have you got any thoughts on Deep Trouble? You know what to do. Let us know in the comments, and thank you for watching.
Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?